Evan, where were you? What were you doing?
Oh, I was murdering for. I mean,
Yeah, this is great. And these are some beautiful poses, nice dynamic lines. Look at those angles, the using the stretching on the head, you know, like lots of good stuff going on here. Definitely worth a look. I think yeah, as you start to manage the transitions, those breakdowns, getting away from sort of moving pieces of the character and doing whole body poses, that will make a huge difference. So like this moment, for example, you can see how the things that you're moving, the thumb and the head move, but everything else stays fixed. And so if we go to
Evan, where were
here,
you?
there we've got that transition. And so it's just a case of taking the entire pose and doing adjustments so that it's not just these two bits and everything else stays fixed in place. Where you have those keys on those parts of the character, that's where I would place the breakdown, like the timing looks correct. This is the other breakdown here at 16. As you highlight the parts that are moving, it starts to emphasize the bits that aren't moving. And so that's what we're going to go in and break down. Yeah, these are awesome poses, Nathan. Yeah. There, just marking where everything is. Basically, the breakdowns are going to be doing a few things. They're going to be adding offset. I'm going to be adding overshoot. I'm going to be adding breakdowns for anticipation and recovery, breakdowns for arcs, adding breakdowns for extremes. This is not the only thing you can do with breakdowns, and these breakdowns won't just be for just that one thing. They will probably be doing multiple things, but that's sort of a lot of what you do with your breakdowns. That's about it.
Evan, where were you? What were you doing?
oh, I was murdering for. I mean,
So these breakdowns, essentially, I'm taking my key poses, and the key poses, they're going to be done just like any other key pose, where we start with the root of the character. We're thinking about line of action, silhouette, balance, flow lines, rhythm, all of the things that go into making a good pose. When we build breakdowns, we use all those same principles, but essentially breakdowns are more focused on managing how the character transitions from a key pose to the next key pose. So the first one is offset overlap. So the idea is that not everything on the body starts and stops at the same time. So in this case, the starting, some of the character will be moving and in motion, and other parts of the body will sort of trail behind and start at a different time. Or sometimes it's offsetting the head from the chest, sometimes it's offsetting the arms from the torso. On the other side of that is overshoot. The idea that not everything comes to a stop at the same time. Some things will actually overshoot the mark and recover back to their intended target. And all of this, the offset overlap and the overshoot, is really about depicting mass. The idea that things that are in motion want to stay in motion, things that are stationary want to stay stationary. I'm going to go between this pose at like 33 to this pose at 45. So I'm just going to get in a little closer here on my timeline. Whenever I'm working, I typically try and set up a quick select button to grab all of the things that I'm animating on. So in this case, I'm going to grab the root, 1, 2, 3 spine controls. I'm going to grab the neck and the head control. I'm going to grab the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, shoulders, elbows, wrist, the feet, and the pull vectors of those. Those are sort of my blocking controls. Now, if I was using FK arms, I would also grab those as well. And I just make a button. So I'm going to go pose to shelf, block, and selection to shelf. And so that way I can quickly click that button and grab all the controls that I'm operating on for just the pantomime blocking. So blocking here. So I'm just going to go ahead, all my blocking controls, S to key like that. And this hand control here, I'm just going to get rid of this key at 33. So it's going to start at the same time as the rest of them. And then I'm going to go to 43, grab all those blocking controls, S to key like that, and frame. So, okay, so let's go here first. So offset, I'm going to have the characters sort of moving from this pose to this pose, and I want to offset some things. So I'm going to have the hand with the dagger leading the action and the rest of the body sort of trailing behind. So I'm going to go at 36, sort of partway between them, but not halfway between them. And I'm going to take the movement of the dagger and I'm just going to have it get further along. So I'm going to say where the dagger hand is like at 40, I'm going to have here at 36 S to key like that. So I just grab that value and bring it back here. And I'm going to grab the pole vector and I'm just going to pull it down a little bit. So 36 like this, like that. So the dagger leads the action. And I'm going to do just a little bit more with this. So I'm going to take this other hand. I'm going to keep its position closer to where it started. So I'm going to say, let's take its position at 33 and move that to 36 as well. So the right hand, it's leading away a little quicker, but the left hand sort of hangs in space a little more stationary. And let me see, I'm just going to see, and I'm going to have that elbow drop a little bit like that. Now it's a little too locked in space, so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to say drop it forward like this and open up that wrist a little bit like this. There we go. So just offsetting some of the things that are happening. Hand is leading now, and I'm going to have the head at that same frame, just tracking the hand a little bit closer. And for me, I tend to operate on the head and the neck together like this. So I'm just going to take those and rotate a little bit, check that movement. Let me see here, grab this wrist. So that's the first sort of type of breakdown, that offset. I'm offsetting some of the behavior. This hand's leading, this hand's trailing behind. Now I'm also going to do something on this breakdown. I'm going to add arcs. So I don't just want things moving in straight lines. To create good organic movement, I also want to create movement in arcs. So I'm going to say, let's have the left hand, sort of the hand that he's holding the knife with. I'm not only going to have it sort of hold in space and drop away, but I'm also going to have it move out so it swings down in an arc. So at this point here, I'm going to take this hand and just bring it towards camera a little bit like this. Turn the knuckles like this. And this is especially important because IK, it translates in straight lines, right? If I want to get an arc, I'm going to have to add a number of breakdowns to get that. This breakdown that I've created at 36, it's offsetting some of the behavior. Some things are leading, some things are trailing, but it's also adding arcs as well, which is one of the other behaviors that we're trying to create with these breakdowns. So I'm going to go like this. Checking that. I'm just checking my silhouette from the shot cam. I'm going to have that knuckle sort of trail, thinking about where it was before, like that. So this hand drops away, that thumb pointing towards the knife. And you know what? I'm going to take the knife and also I'm going to offset some of that rotation as well. I'm going to grab this here. From a top view, just looking at the path of that. Adding an arc here, have that knife move towards camera a little bit. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So there is offset and arcs being created just by how I'm adding that breakdown. Let's see here. And you know what? One last offset. I'm going to have the head just delay back a little bit. So the nose tracking the knife. And I'm also going to have it add an arc as well where it dips down, drop that nose. So the nose drops and then comes back up to its final destination. Trying my best not to change any of the keys because the keys are all working great. They're great key poses, nice and dynamic, good lines of action. So I just want to add a breakdown that offsets some things and also add some arcs to things. So here we go. There's that breakdown now. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to have the shoulder lead the action as well. And just here, just like that. And the other shoulder, you know what I'll have? Dropping a little bit quicker. There we go. So now what we have is something that's a little bit organic, the movement between those two positions. So let me show you that again. I'm going to grab those blocking controls. I'm going to S to key here. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's see. I'm not even sure what it is. S key there and S key there. So there's the movement with the breakdown for arcs and for offset overlap. And now here's the movement without that breakdown. So I'm going to get rid of that. So here's what we had. And here's what we created with that breakdown. So just a little bit more organic, a little bit more complex movement. Let's see here. I'm going to just try and fix the silhouette there on that hand. Just get that opened up a little bit like that, just so we're seeing. So there's that knife. And I'm going to trail the tip of the knife just a little bit more. Oh, no, actually. There we go. There. Okay, so now let's add another type of breakdown, an anticipation. So basically a breakdown ahead of the action, which sort of telegraphs the audience something is about to happen. And for that, I'm going to actually go before frame 32. I'm going to add a breakdown here at, like, say 29, just ahead of the action. And all I want is something that's sort of telegraphing to the audience, hey, he's about to move. And I'm just watching the action here. So for the knife hand, I'm going to have it just drop down and a little bit away from the direction it's going to head in. For the head does this sort of dip down and up. I'm going to have the chin just sort of raise up a little bit in anticipation of that sweep like that. So for head and neck, show nerves curves, going to go like this. And let me see, I just want to, well, first I'm going to grab block, S to key. I'm going to make this breakdown on 29, so I want to key everything there. And I'm going to say, let's try, if the head sweeps this way, I'm going to take the head and neck and just do, like, open it up a little bit like that. So the head opens up and sweeps down. Now I'm going pretty extreme with this breakdown. I probably don't want that much. Very similar to my Visine workflow. I can say, hey, this is too much. This is none. I'm just going to say this much movement on the head and neck, S to key. Let's see. So there's a little rise up before that sweep through. Okay. And then I'm going to take the knife hand now, and I'm going to say, let's take the knife. It's going to be raising up like that. So I'm just going to drop it down a little bit like this. And let's see here. And he's moving forward. So I'm going to say that. And now I've got to take this hand and align it. Let's see here. Okay, so here I'm just going to drop the hand down a little bit, rotate the hand down a little bit like this, grab this, grab that like that. Let's see. Probably pretty extreme. I don't know if I need something that extreme, but let's go like that. So drop, and let's see. Okay, and let's see this drop down a little bit, up. This shoulder here, drop down. So each one I'm just sort of thinking about where is it going to, and I'm doing the opposite as an anticipation. So let's see, that elbow's going in, so and let's see here. Now the weird thing is there's no movement on the root whatsoever, which not something I would normally do. So I would probably have like a little bit of movement like this, and then teensy little bit of sort of movement in the torso like that. But this pose here, for example, rather than translate like just doing the shoulders, I would be doing something like this where I tilt the torso like that and then grab the spine back up like that. And you can see how it creates this nice curve for the torso to create that same pose. It's funny though, you can kind of get away with it because from the shot cam view, it's all cut off below the sort of the nipple line of the character, and so you can't really see that that's not actually happening. Um, I would have like little bits of movement in the root at the very least, like some translate just to shift the character around the scene. So let's see here. So here, like that. So there's that anticipation. So here, the character's dropping down a little bit, and then there's that breakdown. So now we've got two breakdowns. We've got the first breakdown, which was the offset and overlap, where the characters sort of some parts are moving first and some parts are moving after. And we've also got arcs happening at that same time where the hand dropping away is moving outwards to move in an arc. This hand is sort of sweeping out in an arc. The head, the nose is dipping down before that transition again to be an arc. And now we have this other breakdown that we structured, an anticipation where we have from here to there, not a lot going on, but there we go, like that. So the hand drops down and let's go. So now we have that. Now this is pretty extreme. I probably wouldn't have an anticipation quite this extreme. I'd probably do something like this. Let's see here. Just doing that. That's probably enough right there. S to key, like that. Just a little bit of bob down like that. And I might even move this one frame center, so it's just like a little bit of, oh, whoops, except I don't think I had all my blocking controls, did I? Let's see, block. There we go. Block. Middle mouse drag, S to key, S to key, S to key. Move them up one. Just a little bit of movement. There we go. You get that hand aligned there like that. This moment here, starting to drop away. There like that. There we go. So teeny little anticipation. There we go. Okay, so anticipation, offset overlap arcs, next kind of breakdown sort of behavior. And like I say, breakdowns are never just one thing. Sometimes they're doing multiple things at the same time. But the next sort of big one that I do is I'm going to do a little bit of an overshoot. So something that shoots beyond its target. So in this case, let's go to frame 43 here. And it looks like there's already a bit of an overshoot on the body there, which is awesome. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the arm. So let's say 43 is our pose that we're aiming towards. I'm going to hit S to key here, and then I'm going to get rid of, what's this here, 44, delete. Looks like just a head thing. S to key, and then we'll say 51 is where the character body ends up, like that. Delete selected for second 51. So let's go like that. 51. Okay, so 43, 51. Okay, so let's say 43 is our target, and I want to overshoot past that at 45. So obvious stuff, the hand was moving up like this, just tracking the tip of that knife. I'm going to have it rotate just a little bit past that point. And let's see here. And just tuck in a little bit tighter to his body. And let's see, panel perspective like this. Just watching the action here. So he sweeps it out. So overshoot, elbow. So I'm going to have the elbow shoot up just a little bit past that point and then return back to its position. So you can see here and here, same position, right? I just want to have a little bit of an overshoot and recover. There we go, like that. And let's see here. So sweeping. And like many breakdowns, it's going to do several things, including overshoot. I'm going to have the tip of the blade sweep past that point in a bit of an arc as well. So I'm going to track the tip of that blade so it sort of comes up and shoots past and recovers. Up, shoot past and recover. Body. So it's sweeping out. I'm going to have it overshoot and return. This arm here dropping down. Let's see here, and I'm just checking the overshoot. I just want to see. Let's see. So traveling up like that. This breakdown here, this offset, I'm also going to just adjust this arc slightly. Just watch that hand. Now, because I've been adding these things piecemeal, I'm going to show you a fun little trick here. I'm going to grab all my blocking controls. I'm going to go to my graph editor here, and I'm just going to grab the section that I've been working here and these keys here, and I'm just going to say, hey, rather than doing auto spline, let's just do spline so that it'll have these natural overshoots, just so I can see a little bit more continuous movement there. Let's see, so this one here, you, for example, I want you more. Oops, get meeting controls out of my way for a sec. So this is the arc. There we go. Let's see here. Shoulder, overshoot that as well. So arm dropping down. There we go. Let's see. And I've been trying to avoid doing this. You know, I didn't want to change 43, so it should have been staying the same as, but I'm just in order to get the arc smoothly through, I have to tweak 43 just a teensy bit to get to where I want to go. Let's see here. this one here. I'm just going to pull you in. Just watching the arc that hand travels on. Up. Yeah, I thought so. I got too far. There, a little bit of overshoot. There we go. Trying to keep the ranges naturalistic. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. Head and neck, same thing. I just wanted to overshoot that mark a little bit. So sweeping down. Again, I'm probably going more extreme than I need to. There we go. Panel perspective, shot cam. There we go. So there's that little overshoot here, goes past and then comes back down. So you can see 43 and 51, very similar. I've tweaked 43 a teensy bit, but they're pretty much similar. But 45 is that overshoot breakdown to kind of everything shoots beyond. Some things aren't necessarily shooting beyond. Sometimes that overshoot breakdown, I'll also be using it for things that are trailing behind to finally catch up. So in some cases, it's using I'm using this overshoot as also a offset. Sometimes it's about smoothing out the arc of the movement of an object. So like I say, breakdowns, they're doing multiple things at the same time, but primarily this breakdown was about the overshoot. Primarily, this breakdown was about the offset and overlap. Primarily, this breakdown was mostly about the anticipation of the action. But now you can see that movement. Pretty subtle differences. But hopefully what it's creating is more organic movement, more movement across the entire character. The only things that I haven't talked about, I've been sort of talking about arcs as I've been going along. Overshoot and recovery, well, truthfully, this key and this key here, this breakdown becomes a recovery that basically is settling to that moment. The last thing that I wanted to show with the breakdown is sort of a moving hold, the idea of a breakdown as a mechanical function of kind of keeping the character alive. So the character is stationary, it's not doing anything, he's just holding a pose, but you still want to keep the character looking like it's living, it's breathing, it's moving. And let's see if there's a place where it makes sense to structure that. Okay, here we go. So the character, we've done all our breakdowns from 24 to 51, and now there's this transition again from the 51 to 60. So I'm going to grab all my blocking controls. We've got this moment here from 51 to 59, the character transitions. I would do the same thing as before. I would break down between, maybe I would add a breakdown sort of at the halfway point to define the arcs, put in some offsets, things like that. Multiple things that I could do with this breakdown. I'm just going to do a breakdown and offset the movement of the hand. And I'm going to show you a fun mechanical way that you can sort of do this for breakdowns. There's a tool called Tween Machine that does something similar to this, where it's basically allowing you to select parts of the body and say, hey, favor the next pose or favor the previous pose by certain percentages. And you can build breakdowns really quickly that way to offset stuff. From this moment here to this moment here, the character is sort of moving to the next position, anticipating looking at the edge. So it's really about the character is getting to the position to look at the edge first. So I'm going to do first on offset, I'm going to take the hand holding the knife as well as the, and here I'm going to hit 4 so I can see the pull vector there, as the elbow. And I'm going to say, hey, I want to key it at 55, but I want it delaying. So the position it's at 52, delay it there. So basically he starts to move like, okay, I'm going to look at the edge of my knife here. But the knife is, because the knife is heavy and metal and he's not really thinking about the knife right now in those terms, he's getting himself into position so he can have a look at that knife and see if the edge is nice and keen. And so the knife just trails, delays behind. I might even take the shoulder as well and say, hey, let's take that shoulder and delay that as well at 55. So there's that offset of the shoulder trailing behind. Likewise, I might even say, hey, maybe the head and the neck are getting into position quicker. So it's like, I want to take this position at 58 and say S to key. But of course, because the head and neck position is, well, actually, maybe it's not. Let me see here. Oh, it's in global. So yeah, actually, that does actually get the head close to where it's going. And maybe I'm going to have this shoulder open up and lead more as well. So let's see here at 55, I could say, okay, middle mouse drag, S to key, take the value at 59 and place it at 55. And let's see if that gives me the result I'm after. Not really, so I'm actually going to have to do one of these, swing that arm back a little bit. So there, swings back, and there we go. So there's that offset. And then the last thing I'm going to do is let's take the neck and pull it back like this, take the head, pull back like this, just dip that nose down a little bit so we get an arc for this transition like that. So there, go in here and I'm going to regard that knife. And then this moving hold between 59 to 65 is informed by what was happening previous. So for example, the knife was delayed and it arrives rather quickly. So the moving hold, part of it would be, okay, well, I'm going to need an overshoot on that knife hand past the target and back again like this. So it doesn't come to a dead stop. And let's see here. The hand actually raises up a bit as well. So I'm going to do like one of these. So it sort of goes, there we go. And let's see, shoulder. I'm going to drop the shoulder down just a teensy bit on this moving hold as well. And the root of the character, panel, perspective, like this. S key. So he's sweeping. I'm going to have him just overshoot just a teensy bit and recover. But I don't want the entire pose of the character moving, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say rotate the root just a teeny back so his head. So see how it creates that movement in the body without the character moving off position too much. Let's see this pose here. And where's my pose? It's at 61. Offset pose there. Let's see here. There we go. Just a bit of a moving hold. There we go. Okay, so there, we're broken down now from 24 to 65. Show NURBS curves. There we go. And you know what? Last breakdown I'm just going to do. It's just on the head and neck. It's a little bit of an overshoot here. I guess in some respects you could say it's an extreme. In some ways you could say it's a recovery. But I'm just going to have head up. So overshoot like this. But here I'm just going to tilt it past a little bit. like that. Let that top of the head drift a little bit. Look. Let me think about that edge. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Tilt that head just a little bit beyond. There we go. Just a little bit of overshoot. There we go. There. Looking. There we go. So that's it. So that's how we're using those breakdowns to try and offset some of the behaviors, get better arcs, overshoot. The extremes, I haven't really run into an example of the extremes. I guess you could say the point where I was shooting the head past the point kind of became an extreme. Like I say, each breakdown is kind of doing multiple things, so it's not solely one thing. But hopefully, you've seen examples of where I'm creating an anticipation with a breakdown. I'm creating an overshoot with a breakdown. So it's hard to say what it's going to look like on those merge points, but let's see. There'll probably be some weird hiccups. Let's see here, but let's find out. Play blast. Yeah, there you go. The area that I was working on was like 24 to sec block. 24 to 65. Now, this is fairly constrained, and one of the reasons Nathan's file is nice to work with is because the poses, the key poses, are actually quite nice. They're nice and broad and expansive. They got great lines of action, nice clear silhouettes, and so the benefit of the breakdowns becomes more evident. Typically, a lot of times when you're doing demonstration stuff with breakdowns, well, first you want to go back and fix the key poses and adjust them, and everything else was working really great. So it was a good example and nice clear poses to work with. So hopefully you can see the benefit of the breakdowns, and you can see also as I was structuring those breakdowns, I would be working on pieces of the character at a time, but in the end, I ended up posing the entirety of the character. So all the things that Nathan's using to make those key poses, I'm also keying all of those objects for the breakdowns as well. So if you find yourself just working on the head and everything else is locked, or just working on the arm and everything else is locked, you want to stop doing that. Pose your breakdowns just like you would pose your key poses. You're going to get a much better organic result. That is it for today. It's hopefully useful. Some of the breakdowns I'm going a lot broader than I normally would. It's not as carefully planned as it should be, but hopefully that gives you an idea of the kind of organic movement that I'm looking for and expecting from everybody's work.